Yeah, it's great to be in conversation with you again. We wanted to share some time to get your perspective and take on the madness that's happened in the DC area of the federal takeover of the DC police and the federalizing and militarizing that's happening there to get a perspective of a movement maker out in the DC area, what you're seeing, what you're anticipating, what you're doing. Qiana, can we start by just introducing yourself? Can you just say who you are and what you do in the DC area or that kind of region, I guess?
Sure. So my name is Qiana. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a formerly incarcerated woman, an organizer, an executive director. Um, and, the organizations that I'm a part of, plenty organizations, including Debug, but the organizations that I'm a part of here in the local area is Life After Release and also Harriet's Wildest Dreams. And I'm a former organizer with Black Lives Matter DC. And I immediately started organizing shortly after I came home from prison in 2017. And being able to just see the importance of organizing to change our conditions, the systemic ways in which we are targeted and oppressed, particularly through mass incarceration. And so the work that I do on the ground is directly related to, in DC, is directly related to Harriet's wildest dreams.
And can you describe Harry's Wildest Dreams a little bit?
Yes, so Harry's Wildest Dreams, we started as an organization. All three of the co-founders were actually organizers with Black Lives Matter DC, and we started our organization. I believe it was like in 2021 or 2020 or so, around that time. We started doing the work, understanding that we needed to be a centralized hub to be able to stop the systemic ways and the state-sanctioned violence of Black bodies in our area. And understanding that we wanted to do more than just tear things down, but we wanted to also build up our community and build Black futures, build brown futures. And so Harriet's Wildest Dreams kind of was born out of that. We The pillars of our work are a rapid response around community violence that happens in our community when individuals are killed by police, police violence. We also have a pillar where legal empowerment, and that's where our participatory defense work, our court watching work happens. I'm kind of the go-to person for that. And then we also politically educate our people through our political education pillar. So those are the three ways in which our three-pronged approach at Harriet's Wildest Dreams that we are systemically and intentionally fighting back against the systems that are rising up to continuously try to take us out.
Thanks, Kiana. And speaking of that vision and the systems that you all are organizing to fight against to protect your people, recently there's been a move by Trump and the federal administration that has even further threatened your community in ways that are pretty unprecedented, not even figuratively, but literally unprecedented. I think Donald Trump declared it. It's odd using the language he's taken, but he called it Liberation Day in DC, and it's a federal takeover of DC's Metropolitan Police Department, appointing the DEA head as a commissioner, ordering 800 National Guard soldiers into the city, leaving open the possibility of deployment of active duty military forces. It happened recently. As of now, he had said this is going to be, I don't know, authoritarian takeover, and then see what Congress wants to do. We've seen some videos of military equipment, of military vehicles patrolling streets, civilian streets, interacting with civilians as if it's a war zone. What 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 was your first impression when you heard about what this administration was doing in DC, and what struck you as something that needed a response to?
Well, I just want to start by saying that we also, out of this, the presidency, we also the one of our co-founders, Nene Taylor, Nene Tay, who's actually helped to found an organization or a project called Free DC. And so we are working very closely with Free DC, and we actually formed this organization was formed shortly after he was put into presidency. One thing I can say about us in DC is that we have a strong infrastructure of organizing, deep organizing, and we've been organizing for years. And so we kind of anticipated this. We do take to the streets and we do protest, but we also very intentionally organize. We knew when January 6th happened that we needed to organize and we needed to build up our base of people because the power is always within the people, right? So this wasn't really a surprise to us on the ground. In actuality, there has been an ongoing fight for DC statehood, right? We've been organizing for DC statehood for years because we knew that this type of overreach and this type of um, tactics that the president is now engaging in, we knew that it was possible. And so we have been organizing against this for a while now. But when it did indeed happen, we jumped into action and we started moving forward. We didn't take to the streets because we knew we have to organize strategically. And some of the things that we're doing are like jury project training, training folks to be on jurors, cop watch training. We had a cop watch training on yesterday. Some of the other things that we're doing in response that we've been doing actually before this even happened is just training our people up and getting our people oriented around what it means to be in deep community and organizing against a non-cooperative so that we can actually fight this machine. It's very dangerous for us on the ground. Like you said, these folks are coming in with machine weaponry, militarized weapons. They're coming in with, just this charge to do whatever it takes to basically take us out. We've seen it. We've seen the folks getting pulled over. We've seen them walking up and down our streets. And it is just a horrible thing to do. But we are prepared. And that's my call to action to everyone else around the world, because it's DC today, but what other state is coming tomorrow? And we've already heard that he's going to try to come to California. He's going to try to go to other places. And so this is just a test run to try to get it done here. And then we'll start to see this unfold in other places. So I'm very happy of all the support that we've gotten. Andrea James texted me a couple of hours ago. You checked in, Movement for Black Lives folks have checked in. They're like, hey, what do y'all need? And what we need is we need us to come together more intentionally, even more now than ever before.
That's powerful, Qiana. And just noting that the history of organizing in many ways was prepared for something that I think a lot of people didn't anticipate because they're not there, so they didn't see the buildup. But it's very smart and strategic of how you all have built the infrastructure of response. And part of the way that the administration has kind of sold this clear authoritarian fascist move is by a narrative of the communities of DC. And so he essentially he's put this costume on other cities before, on Oakland, on LA, essentially even using the same imagery, but saying, look, there's roving bands of lawlessness, of people being randomly attacked, that you can't walk anywhere. And they talk about essentially just criminalizing homelessness. What is it what is the reality about community in DC that you want those outside of the area to know about, to challenge the depictions laid out by the administration?
That one, first and foremost, our crime, I hate to, we don't use the word crime, but for the folks listening, I'm going to speak the language that they understand. What we know as organizers and folks who are here in harm reduction is we know that there is no such thing as crime, that there is only harm, people that cause harm. And so the actual truth of the matter is that our crime rate, or carjackings, murders, and things of that nature, is actually down. It's at a 30-year low. And so the rhetoric that's being spit out about our nation's capital is that it's a horrible place to go. People can't visit there. It's just riddled with crime and harm, and you can't walk the streets. And that's just not true. We are working. We're as a community, we're doing our part. We're having block parties. We've had mutual aid hubs set up since COVID that have not gone away. Our mutual aid hubs happen every single day. We're still the neighbors taking care of neighbors. And so, it's not going to happen overnight. But there's been a large and a huge impact on the decrease of those things happening in our community. And so, to have this rhetoric be spit out about us, to fearmonger and to have people believe that we absolutely need and that we can't govern and be in community with one another is just not true. And so we wanted folks to understand that, because folks are afraid of being carjacked. Folks are afraid of being robbed, and folks are afraid of stray bullets and things of that nature. But the truth of the matter is that it's gone down. It has definitely gone down. And so we want to continue to work within our own communities without bringing in military guards to basically terrorize us.
Has the terrorism of the National Guard and the military, how has that affected sort of the political thinking or atmosphere of the community? Has this radicalized community? Has it brought people into the fight more, know that this fight is literally at their doorsteps? How's the general kind of community reacting to this moment?
The community is coming in. We're calling them in, and they're coming. Like I said, we have a new container to hold folks outside of Harriet's Wildest Dreams that is free DC, and folks are coming in. They're wanting to be a part of something larger than themselves, and so our free DC movement that we've created is to say that we want statehood, and this is why. And I think it's drawing an interesting line in the sand, because it's kind of forcing us to be kind of like unified in a sense to our council folk and to our local council, because our mayors always wanted statehood. Most of the council have always wanted statehood. And so this is a point of unity, right? Using our language, this is a point of unity for us, with our local elected, to say that this is why we need statehood, and this is why we need to do that. We can talk about our other issues and our other things that we have to talk about later, but right now in this moment we need to be able to unify, if only at that issue of DC needs to be a statehood. Home rule does not need to be touched. We need our $1 billion back for so that we can run our local governments and our local agencies, and our give people their jobs and things of that nature. So I feel like politically the climate is right now is that the organizers are in a sense using this or trying to connect this to the issue of statehood, where most of our electeds wanted to be locally anyway.
That's powerful. This notion of the larger container, as you said, or the larger field of play is really about self-determination and something beyond the immediacy of these attacks. So I watched the press conference, whatever theater they did yesterday, and they essentially just made a laundry list of like anything that was any law changes that were somewhat mildly progressive, or something that was more community oriented rather than carceral, they villainized. And so they just kind of went down the list with no correlation actually to what was happening in DC or any other city. They just said, I think they called it cashless bail was the cause of extreme harm. They said, well, if a 14 or a 15-year-old does something, we can't touch them. So the notion that young people should be treated as young people rather than charged and convicted and sentenced as adults. And then just the notion of people existing, who are existing in a time and place where they can't afford rent. uh, they said that their houselessness was the crime itself, and that was such a cause of concern. They have to bring in the military guard. Um, are there are there particular aspects of where you find these arenas of the struggle bearing out the most in the DC area? Is based on what you see like in the courts? I know you're court every day. I know you're meeting with people and families, all the time that are facing the carceral system. What are sort of the aspects that the administration has brought up that they want to dismantle that you think have to be preserved or expanded for the good of our people?
Really, all of the things that you said that we worked so hard for, particularly, I'm hearing about like the IRA, and the very progressive and very strong, um, that policy that we got to get folks out of incarceration that's been in there for a long time. Um, it's essentially the Second Look Act, or the Second Look legislation that DC passed some time ago, that is being drug into this, right, when none of the IRA recipients here in DC have repeated or have gone back to prison or to jail, or reoffended, to drag in folks that we worked hard to be able to come home, and just say, once a criminal, always a criminal. People shouldn't be coming home early. That's one of the biggest ones, because I feel like these are people who haven't even done anything in this season, right? They haven't been convicted of anything anytime. It was a long time ago for them, and to drag them into this is just crazy to me. Additionally, the ending the cash bail piece. DC has been a cashless bail system for a better part of 20 years. This is not like they're literally going to take us back 20 years with some of the things that they're proposing. And a lot of people don't know that DC doesn't have bail, and they have a pretrial, a pretty robust pretrial release through a CSOSA. And so, people are not paying attention to that. I don't think they understand just how detrimental that could be if we erase that. There's so many states that are trying to get to a cashless bail state, right? Or a cashless bail jurisdiction. And to take that away is going to be very, very detrimental. And then to treat our young people as adults, understanding the science and all of the things behind it, and not giving any resources, especially at a time right now where our youth detention center is being riddled with drugs, riddled with lack of responsibility from correctional officers. One of the correctional officers was just sentenced for sexually abusing the young people in that place. And so it's just very disturbing to say and to think that, we have this catch all, or this whole let's get back to the lock them up and throw away the key, to have a sense of law and order, is just very, very disheartening, and it's very dangerous.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's also so lacking of creativity. I mean, they're literally drawing the same lines that they used 20 plus years ago, as you said. And their description of what they fantasized about happening on the streets of DC was really the same throwback language of the super predator that they used to lock up young black and brown people indefinitely, kids indefinitely, based on these fictitious stories that they would make up about communities, and they're essentially bringing back the same ghosts. Um, well, Qiana, I just always appreciated the work that you're doing and holding down in that area, through everything you do in participatory defense, the court watch program, supportive families, the challenging of police violence, all of it. And the fact that they try to take the fight to your town Actually, I feel like they didn't understand what they're getting into because you are an organized, intentional uh, force. And so they're trying to use DC as an experiment, but I think in some ways that was the worst place they should have picked because if they thought this was going to be the first of, and they're going to roll on to other cities, um, they got another thing coming. And I think that's clear from the conversation we had. So just a deep bow and a salute to you and the whole movement family out there and what you've been doing and how you've been prepared for this moment before they even conceived of it. And
Yeah.
um, please keep us posted of any ways that we could support you all. Because as you said, your fight is our fight, not in a just a matter of saying, but it clearly is emblematic. And they have said what we try and what we could get away with in DC is what we'll try to get away with in Chicago, LA, Oakland, everywhere else. So um, just know that you have a national movement behind you and you can tap in whenever. And thank you so much for holding it down over there.
Absolutely. And there is absolutely stuff that folks can do across the lines, in different states. Get a hold of your Congress folks. Make sure you know how they're going to vote when this thing goes out for a vote. Make sure that,
Yeah.
you're organizing and that you understand where your Congress people stand in this, because essentially they're going to have a voice in this when it's all said and done in the next 30 days when it comes up for a vote. So please also start sign on letters and in your own local jurisdictions and make sure that you know where your local official stands, because the day will come where they will have to vote on this, and we need to know that everybody stands with us, elected folks.
We'll definitely do that. And with that said, is there places that folks could check in with you all or track what you're doing either on social media or websites or anything like that that you can name?
Yes, you can follow Harriet's Wildest Dreams on all social media accounts. Also follow Free DC. Inbox us. I see all the inboxes, so you can inbox us, get to us to say you heard me on the podcast, and ask for Qiana, and we'll get in touch with you.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you so much, Qiana.
All right, thank you, Raj.
Appreciate you.
Talk to you soon.